Welcome along to another edition of the Army Analysis Series, and today we are looking at the Berber Murabit 1087 list. So let's have a look. Now this list did really well. When you look at the records, it was phenomenal in the league from season 1 all the way up to the last one, which was season 11. It had raked up 16 wins, no draws, and just 2 losses, which works out at 89% win rate, which is unheard of, really. The average, okay, it's a small sample, more popular armies, 100, 200, 300 games have been played. This is only 18, but still, that's great. And so one of the reasons I'm looking at this army is that it has a unit that's changed. There's been some changes, and that is with these wonderful veteran Muslim spearmen, who we all know so well. They're really a great unit, and the price has gone up. So was it 51? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was about 51, and that was the cost before. And now in the new patch that's been released with the new DLC, they're now 57. So okay, it might only be 6, but that affects this list quite significantly, really, because if you're taking out 5, that's 30 points that you have to pay extra. So, which is it's a whole unit. It's like you could take an irregular foot there. So, or just upgrade some of the other units, perhaps. So let's see, what happens on the battlefield. Does this affect this army so much? We will see. So these veteran spears, really, this is one of the reasons why this army is so successful, because they are superior quality. So you've got your Spearmen POA, the 100 POA, but then they get an extra 50 POA advantage from being superior quality, which is quite a big advantage. Going up against your standard defensive spear, after a couple of rounds, they will often disrupt the enemy. So on impact, against any kind of your average kind of spearman, against your defensive spear, armored defensive spear, offensive armored offensive spear, they've got a plus 50 advantage on impact. Pavicias, the mixed bow, plus 50 on impact. When in melee, armor kicks in a little bit, but they've still got a plus 25 advantage over all of those units. And the Pavicias, because they're mixed unit, it's a huge advantage. It goes to plus 92 because they have swordsman as well as spear, and not much of an armor advantage, just about a plus 8. So these units, even at 57 for the price, because really in medieval, when you look at the armies, we've been I don't know how many I've done for medieval, about 8 or 9 now, coming on to 10 perhaps. The bulk of many of the army lists are your standard defensive spear, maybe a couple of armored defensive spear, perhaps some armored offensive spear. which aren't that great in my opinion. You just get the advantage of being offensive spearmen, but in POA advantages, not really any. So there's not a lot of kind of what I would call mid-tier infantry, or a kind of above average infantry. It all seems to me in a lot of army lists, your bog standard defensive spear and armored defensive spear, and then if you're lucky with some of the armies, you get your dismounted knights. There's the early version at 69, and then your fully armored version at 78. There's a bit of a jump, but you know, around this price range at 57, even now with the price, you know, they've gone up in price, they still do really well, very cost effective, and we'll see. The league is going to start up soon, and we will see how well they do. They're backed up by your standard spear, Muslim spearman, which is essentially defensive spear. I've got 9, and I've got some of the raw Muslim spear as well. So it's about 17. It's about 17 infantry units, which is a fair size. If you followed my videos, on average it's around 18, 19, 20. That seems to be about the average for infantry at 1200 points, which is what we use in the league. That's why I'm using 1200 points. So it's a fair size. It's a fair size. The other big factor with this list are the knights. Now, yes, okay, they're the early version, but they're still superior and armored, so better than most cav out there. And when I had a look at the other Berber armies, I don't think they had access to knights, so this is a bonus for this army. They're going to be better than most cav. They're lancers, so they get advantage on impact. And in combination with all this spearmen, plus some of my favorite units, these Camel Lancers, which are great. You know, 46 is a bargain. I've said in another video when I was having a look at these Camel Lancers, this disordering factor when they're near cavalry, roughly speaking, it's about plus 70 POA advantage. When you look at the combat log, it's roughly about plus 70. So they are excellent, and they're lancers as well. So they are excellent. So you've got like 5 really good cav units there. Plus you've got some light cav, you know, javelin horse. You got 4, and they, you know, they're some of my favorite units in the game as well, because using conjunction with cavalry and mounted troops, you know, if you've got 4 of them, maybe keep them a few together, they can easily disrupt cavalry to give you an advantage. So you can see why this army, even though it's pretty simple, you know, you've really essentially just got veteran spear, spearmen, and some cavalry. You don't have any mixed bow. You don't have any armored units. I've only got access to 1 crossbowman, so it's a pretty straightforward, simple army. But it's got some kind of key units: the javelin horse, early knights, camel lancers, veteran, Muslim spearmen. These are all great units. Great units. They can field a fair amount of skirmishers. We've got 4 here in this build. You could take a little bit more, maybe if you wanted less of the raw spearmen. You could just do a straight swap. You know, the 24, you could take out 2 and add another 2. if you wanted. Let's do that. So, you know, there's some flexibility there. If the map, what's this map like? Yeah, there's a fair bit of rough ground. You might want some extra skirmishers. So again, you've got a lot of the key kind of units that you need in terms of being flexible and playing in different ways. You've also got access to 4 irregular foot as well. Some armies only 2 or 3, so you know 4 is nice. Let's put these back. And where did I put? We'll put them here. It's okay. So it's a well-balanced army. Disadvantages, okay. You've got no armor. You know, these spearmen, even the veteran spear, yes, they're great units, but they're only protected. So you've got to really get stuck in. And maybe with the new DLC, with a lot of the mixed bow units, also some cav heavy armies with a lot of mounted bow units, so that might cause some problems because you've got no armor with your infantry. So going up against any kind of the Paviciers, the mixed bow infantry, or the mounted bow units, they are going to probably be able to disrupt some of these units quite quickly. So they might struggle more in the new DLC. I've only got 1 crossbowman. I like crossbowmen, but we are lacking with skirmishers and bowmen. Actually, okay, if you wanted to change it up, again, you know, this is quite nice to have. Not all armies have access to massed archers, and so maybe I would you know, maybe take out a raw spear, and take out maybe some javelin men, and you could add some up to 3 massed archers. That could be really useful. Could be really useful on maps with a lot of rough ground. What would I give this army? What am I going to give this army? It's going to be a high rating. Maybe I'm going to go A-. Maybe I'm going to go A-. You know, you look at it and you think it's just average, because you know you want maybe more crossbowmen, or you want some armor. You'd like some armor. Lancers, we haven't got any light lancers. Quite a lot of these, especially the new armies, they're really good units to have. But as I said, if you've got 5, I've fielded 5 veteran spear here, a massive spear, and some raw spearmen, which I really like as well. You know, so a lot of these units, so I did my top 10. If you have a look on YouTube, I did a top 10, my favorite units and most, in my opinion, most effective units in the game, taking into account their price and how they do on the battlefield. And you know, javelin horse were there, raw spear for their costs, they were there, camel lancers were there. So I wanted to include these guys. I missed them out, so they would have been there. If I do my updated list, they'll be there. So you know, that's 4. 4 of their, and actually crossbowmen there. All right, they've only got 1. You know, so again, they've got the key units that you need to win. They've got these kind of key units. So even though it's not a lot of variation in your main line, you've got your knights, 2 knights, and yes, they're not fully armored, but they're more maneuverable than the later knights, so that can be an advantage. In this game, often you need to use the flanks, get around cav, try and get that flank attack, and if you're maneuverable and you've got their superior quality knightly lancers, that's great. So for some people, actually, they might prefer the early knights to the late knights. So they're there. So this is a really good army, and let's see what happens. Maybe some of you are playing against them, or you've taken them out. If I was playing against this army, maybe I'd take extra bow. I would take archers, skirmishers with the foot, and maybe I'd take some javelin men and horse archers, to try and take advantage of these troops not being armored. Okay, that's about it. So let's see if they can be beaten. Let's see if they can be beaten. And good luck to everyone who's playing in the new season. And I will continue this series. I'm going to pick another of the new armies. I've done 2 so far from the new DLC. I've done the Syrian State and Crusaders. So for the next video, I'm going to take out a new army, and we'll compare them. Actually, with this series, what it is making me do, and if you're following me as well, really going through, it's interesting when you start analyzing the armies and comparing them. If you go back to some of my previous videos, or you remember some of the kind of matchups and lineups, it's really interesting to see what kind of army you have and how it matches up against some of the armies that you're probably likely to meet in the league. So we're learning together. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again soon.